The Ozark Mountains of Arkansas, a land of rolling hills and deep forests, a place of quiet beauty. But in the spring of 1982, a remote compound in these hills became a powder keg. The compound belonged to a group called the Covenant, the Sword, and the Arm of the Lord, or CSA. They were heavily armed and deeply suspicious of the outside world. They believed the apocalypse was near. They were ready to fight for their survival. The CSA was led by a charismatic preacher named James Ellison. He preached a fiery message of biblical prophecy and armed resistance. His followers, many of them families with children, were drawn to his charisma and message. They were willing to die for their beliefs. The FBI had been watching the CSA for months. The group had been linked to a series of violent crimes, including bank robberies and the murder of a state trooper. They were a danger to themselves and the surrounding community. The compound was a fortress. It was surrounded by barbed wire fences and armed guards and watchtowers. The FBI knew that any attempt to take the compound by force would be bloody. They would have to find another way. The man tasked with resolving the situation was Special Agent Danny Coulson. He was a veteran of the FBI's hostage rescue team. Coulson was a skilled negotiator. He understood the psychology of sieges. He knew that the key to success was patience and communication. Coulson's team set up a command post outside the compound. They brought in negotiators, tactical teams, and armored vehicles. The FBI was ready for a long and dangerous standoff. Inside the compound, tensions were running high. The CSA members were on high alert, expecting an assault at any moment. They were heavily armed and prepared to fight to the death. They believed that the FBI siege was the beginning of the end times. They were ready to meet their fate as martyrs. The atmosphere was electric. The air was thick with fear, suspicion, and the threat of violence. Both sides were locked in a deadly game of nerves. The FBI operation, dubbed Operation Peace, began with a message. Coulson used a loudspeaker to address the CSA. He called for calm and urged them to surrender peacefully. He assured them that no one wanted bloodshed. Coulson's words were met with silence. Then a voice boomed from the compound's loudspeaker. It was Ellison. He denounced the FBI as agents of the Antichrist. He vowed to fight to the death. Days turned into nights. The FBI maintained a tight perimeter around the compound. They cut off all power and communication to the CSA. The goal was to pressure the group into surrendering. They also hoped to wear down their resolve. Time, Coulson believed, was on their side. Inside the compound, conditions were deteriorating, food and water were running low, the lack of electricity and communication with the outside world was taking its toll. The psychological pressure was immense. Days turned into a week. The stalemate continued. The FBI used the time to gather intelligence. They learned as much as they could about the CSA's beliefs, leadership structure, and defenses. They flew aerial reconnaissance missions over the compound, photographing every detail. They planted listening devices around the perimeter, hoping to eavesdrop on the CSA's communications. Meanwhile, Coulson kept the lines of communication open. He spoke with Ellison and other CSA members through bullhorns and handwritten notes. He listened to their grievances. He tried to understand their worldview. He looked for any crack in their armor of defiance. The negotiators were trained to build rapport. They appealed to the CSA's sense of family and faith. They reminded them of the innocent lives that were at stake. They stressed the futility of violence. Coulson knew he needed a breakthrough. He decided to bring in a third party, someone the CSA might trust. He reached out to Robert Millar. Millar was a former Green Beret medic and had become a self-proclaimed ambassador to religious groups. With experience in negotiating with radical groups, Millar was a controversial figure. While some saw him as a publicity seeker, others believed he was sincere in his desire to help. Coulson didn't care about Millar's motivations. He needed someone who could talk to the CSA, and Millar was his best hope. Arriving at the compound with a message of peace and reconciliation, Millar spoke to the CSA in their own language. quoting scripture and appealing to their faith. He told them that he understood their fears and assured them that there was a way out of the standoff without violence. The atmosphere in the compound was a strange mix of fear and defiance. The adults were preparing for a final battle, while the children played amongst the sandbags and weapons, oblivious to the danger. The days were hot, the nights were cold, and the tension was omnipresent. The FBI kept up the pressure, employing psychological warfare tactics. They played loud music and bright lights at night, fired tear gas canisters into the compound, aiming to disrupt the CSA's sleep and wear down their morale. Inside the compound, doubts began to creep in. Some of the CSA members, especially those with families, started to question Ellison's leadership. They were tired of living in fear and wanted a peaceful resolution. Millar's arrival was a turning point. He established a rapport with Ellison and other key members of the group. He met with them daily, sometimes for hours. He listened to their concerns, their fears, their hopes. He spoke to them of the love of God and the futility of violence. He offered them a way out. After days of intense negotiations, Millar secured a major concession. Ellison agreed to allow the women and children to leave the compound. It was a sign that he was beginning to crack. He was starting to put the well-being of his followers above his own ideology. The FBI was relieved. The release of the women and children de-escalated the situation. It reduced the risk of a bloody confrontation. It also gave Coulson a powerful bargaining chip. With the women and children safe, the focus shifted to the remaining CSA members. Coulson knew that they were deeply distrustful of the government. He had to find a way to guarantee their safety and their freedom. After days of painstaking negotiations, Coulson and Millar convinced Ellison and his followers to surrender. The CSA members would come out unarmed, one by one. They would be taken into custody peacefully. There would be no raid, no bloodshed. On April 25, 1982, the standoff came to an end. One after another, the CSA members walked out of the compound. They laid down their arms. They surrendered to the FBI. It was a quiet, anticlimactic end to a tense standoff. The peaceful resolution of the standoff was a testament to the skill and patience of the FBI negotiators. It was a victory for dialogue over violence. It showed that even the most intractable conflicts could be resolved through communication and understanding. The siege at the CSA compound had a profound impact on the FBI. It highlighted the importance of negotiation and communication in hostage situations. It led to the development of new tactics and training programs for dealing with similar situations. The standoff also had a lasting impact on the lives of those involved. For the FBI agents, it was a reminder of the dangers of their work and the importance of their training. For the CSA members, it was a turning point in their lives. Many of them renounced their extremist beliefs and attempted to rebuild their lives. The standoff at the CSA compound stands as a stark reminder of the volatile mix of ideology, faith, and weaponry that can ignite in the heartland. It is a story of how quickly a community can become a fortress, and how even the most deeply held beliefs can be challenged in the face of relentless pressure. The success of Operation Peace, however, lies not in the show of force, but in the restraint shown by the FBI. It underscores the importance of patience in the face of volatility, the power of dialogue over confrontation. It serves as a testament to the belief that even in the most volatile situations, a peaceful resolution is possible. The events in the Arkansas hills echo with a simple yet profound truth: that it is in the quiet moments of communication, the willingness to understand, and the unwavering pursuit of peace that true victory lies. It is a lesson as relevant today as it was in the spring of 1982.